going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 168 in year 4, and we're recording this podcast too fucking early. It is just too fucking early. Clay's got for I guess the rest of the year, has got a busy schedule, so we have to record this shit early because I'd rather not record it late to keep the schedule going for you guys getting the podcast on a Thursday or a Friday schedule. So,
well, I will say this, that this is my probationary period in my job for 6 months from when I started. So I'm not allowed to change my schedule, which is open availability. But in April, when I finally do get to change my schedule, I am making sure that the day before we record this is off, and this day I'm off.
I feel like Friday would be hard, wouldn't it?
No. The day before.
Oh, Wednesday.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be off, and then I can open, close, do whatever on any other day. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they like when people work weekends in this state. So super early. We do have a hard out for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to dive right into it with the biggest news of the week, which is something that we didn't predict, but we were hoping for. And I think this is really awesome. Rumors have it that DC Animation is in talks to have a deal with Amazon, which we said this was probably the best case scenario if somebody was going to be buying DC properties, or at least licensing, we should say.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you, Clay, is let's just say that Amazon is going to buy this. Amazon has $1 bajillion, so I would assume they have the NFL. They're trying to get the NBA and stuff. They want everything. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, Jeff Bezos is trying to take over the world. He wants everybody to get in his penis rockets that he accepts and that he likes. So I think let's just say that this is going to happen. Does this animation, does James Gunn control this animation?
So that is the big deal, right? I was really worried when Zaslav became this guy that was known that he was going to be in the future selling off all of these properties basically to other projects or to other production companies. And my big worry was, are we and the general audience needing to subscribe to multiple different platforms to follow one story that Safran and Gunn are making in the DC universe? Well, I had a discussion with Casey Walsh yesterday when this came out. He had stated, didn't I tell you HBO Max was dead and that they would go to licensing their products and properties, meaning anything connected to the DCU will most likely be on HBO. And I said, with this being an overall animation deal, isn't there a chance, if it's related to canon, it could be on Amazon? And he said, it's possible, but much more difficult to manage things that won't be in-house and will fall under production companies and teams you don't control. You can certainly limit the license, but then you're limiting creativity and value.
True.
So I think what could happen is maybe they really do have something super special with this Cape Crusader, and they're wanting to create another Justice League Unlimited type of story. Maybe Bruce Timm is like, hey, I want to get back into this, but I don't want any limits. Yeah. So let's work with Amazon.
If Bruce Timm doesn't have any limits, Batman's fucking. That's all I'm saying. Bruce Timm has made it very clear that he has no problem with showcasing sexuality in his work. Big time. I've been reading Batman Black and White recently, and I don't know if you ever read his Two-Face story in Black and White, but it's fantastic. It's where I don't know. Have you ever read it before?
I don't believe so.
He had a short thing called, I forgot what the title is, but it's about Two-Face. And Two-Face, there's a surgeon, very beautiful surgeon, gives Two-Face surgery, and she makes him look like Harvey Dent again. And it's all drawn in the animated series.
Yes,
And
I've
then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, they're gonna get married, and then he finds out she has a twin sister, and the twin sister's kind of crazy. And then the twin sister shows up pretending to be her, and she tries to seduce him, and she's like in like lingerie and shit. They end up fucking, they end up having an affair, and then the twin sister ends up killing the other one because Two Face won't leave her. And it's like this fucked up, crazy story. And I was like, God damn, that's good. But Bruce, it was written by Bruce Timm, so if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Crazy shit. Good stuff though. I don't know about the whole thing. I think yes, I agree that it would limit like, you know, I just don't see like do you think DC is going to allow Amazon to do whatever they want? I feel like it would be limited anyways.
I think it will be limited. I definitely think it'll be limited. Um, I mean, if on HBO Max you couldn't have Batman going down on Catwoman, I don't
Yeah.
think they're gonna let Bezos and all of his billions of dollars do anything with
Yeah.
Batman, you know? But
It won't be like The Boys. If people are expecting it, I think it could be hyper violent like The Boys, but you're not going to see, fucking Joker getting thrown into a penis. Like you're not going to
yeah,
you're just not going to see that. So I mean, which might be fucking funny. Like I wonder like what the limits will be, you know? Like, are they gonna light out a like, line out a big thing? I mean, because I feel like if you were to say, "All right, Amazon, if you want to be a part of the universe," because I think it might be smart to, kind of play ball with James Gunn because they're like, "Oh, y'all gonna start this big universe? Like, Amazon could be a part of it. Like, that's pretty big." What if he's like, "Look, we're gonna write out these shows, and then your studio can make them. Like, if that's what you want to do. If you don't, then you guys can kind of do this." Now, the biggest telling thing about this whole thing was recently James Gunn revealed that, everything's going to be connected between video games, all that kind of stuff. But he said, not all, or he said something along the lines of not all animations and stuff will be a part of the universe.
yeah, he like put in parentheses some or
Yeah.
not all in clarification on some things when he was doing that pretty big thread and just answering random people's questions. Um, and that's what I thought of. And I'm looking at it now. I did a quick Google search on Amazon Prime kid shows
Hmm.
because I mean, of course, we're in our 30s. Uh I mean, I guess you're going into your mid to late 30s.
Hey, bro, I don't feel it at all. Just when I wake up this early to do a podcast, that's about it.
But the kid stuff is not really on our radar, right?
Hmm.
And I know that on Hulu, Justice League Action was actually a really big hit for families.
Hmm.
And that one was when it was like a little bit more kiddie. They were like only like 15-minute episodes and things like that. Um, on Amazon Prime, there's not a whole lot of like, I guess, Prime exclusive stuff. It's
Yeah.
just stuff that they have bought the rights for and that they're streaming on their site.
Yeah.
You could keep it in the same, like, I guess, rating as Justice League and Justice League Unlimited as
Hmm.
we watched when we were kids, and then just put it on Amazon Prime, and I think that would be pretty good.
Yeah. Amazon Prime is the last place I think to go watch a lot of stuff, to be
Yeah.
honest though. So, I think if your goal as Amazon is to get more people on the platform, more people on the service, I mean, you got to hit with The Boys, but like once The Boys is gone, what do people watch? You know what I mean? Everybody's kind of just like, ah, fuck it. Like I
Well,
still go back to HBO like after.
I will say they have had a few hits recently. They had
Oh, they had Lord of the
uh
Rings, right?
they had Lord of the Rings, they had Jack Reacher, they had oh, what was the one show, A League of Our Own,
Mm,
the TV series version. They had The Amazing Miss Maisel. They have pretty critically acclaimed shows,
mm,
but I will say they're a little bit under the radar when it comes to other platforms like Netflix and HBO
yeah,
Max and other things like that.
yeah. Yeah, because it's funny because I've heard of those shows you've talked about, but I was like, I didn't know they were on Amazon. So like,
Yeah.
Miss Maisel, I could have sworn that was a Netflix show. So maybe they're just terrible at marketing. But I think I mean, if you say that there's a new Batman show and it's on Amazon, people are gonna be like, oh, okay, like I'm buying Amazon. Because people will, they'll do whatever they need to do to see more Batman stuff. And I said it from the start. Like, if anybody was gonna buy the Cape Crusaders show, it's gonna be Amazon. And so, because I mean, why wouldn't you want Batman? And as long as Disney doesn't get it, like that's the one thing we definitely don't need is we don't need Disney to own everything. Because then it's just gonna be like, all right, y'all have to fall in line and do everything we do. And it's like, all right, we buy things for money and for merchandise. That's why we buy shit. That's the goal of Disney. Disney's gonna take over the world through toys. So you don't want that. So I'm team penis rocket when it comes to Amazon, and I'm like I'm cool with this, but I'm curious on how it's gonna work. I would assume that it's not gonna be part of the universe, and maybe it is just animation. That's why it's an animation deal, right? Because
Yeah.
Gunn can be like, all right, well, our animations will stick part of the universe. Maybe Amazon, you know what? Maybe Amazon will get Harley Quinn because we don't know if Harley Quinn's getting like more. Have they already got season 4? They confirmed that, but is it going to be on HBO Max?
Uh, I don't believe they confirmed that it was on HBO Max, but they did confirm it's gonna be early 2023.
Okay, I'm curious if they're doing what they did with season 1 though. You know how that they did season 1 and 2, how it was technically one season, but they split it into two. Like,
Yeah.
if they're already working on season 4 and then they were just like, "Oh, yeah, it comes out in early 2023." So, that's kinda what they're gonna be doing. But, yeah, I'm down with this, if Amazon is going to be the place. I'm just curious on what they're going to do with the universe. But we'll find that out, maybe early next year because Mr. James Gunn is not done teasing a bunch of shit, which is kinda crazy.
Yeah.
So this, as we have said, James Gunn has been jumping a bunch of platforms recently because nobody knows what's going on with Twitter every day. And he was like, "You guys can find me on these other places." And when he goes to other places, he drops like one tweet or whatever they want to call it on Hive, a post or whatever, a droplet. And freaking, he also was on Mastodon. But I think it was on Hive that he made his banner, the Kingdom Come banner from Alex Ross. Well, recently on Twitter, he just tweeted what planning stuff. What was the
So
words?
the tweet is, I actually have it right here on Discord. It said making plans,
Mm,
period. And it just had the picture of the cover of Kingdom Come. He deleted the first one, no idea why, but then he reposted it. Uh, DC Comics, the
mhm,
actual DC Comics, replied to it with a Batman like rubbing his chin, like,
yeah.
Uh, but people seem to be very excited about this, and I'm a little like I don't know how to feel about this. And the reason why is what this story is. And I was joking around with some friends and I said, I enjoy the story. It's a, you know, it's I would say a higher tier than what Mark Waid is doing in World's Finest right now. But it's definitely higher than what he is doing in Batman versus Robin right now, you know?
Yeah.
This was like in his prime years. And the joke that I had with this was it's either going to be a really good story and people are not going to like it because Shazam is going to beat the shit out of Superman,
Mhm.
or they're going to change the story to where instead of Shazam fighting Superman, it's going to be Black Adam.
Oh, that can make a lot of sense, actually. I've
Yeah.
yet to read Kingdom Come, so I always heard that the Alex Ross drawing stories were kind of bad, so I've never read that.
They it, so one thing that
It's like
my
the
one of my
past.
friends always says that he hates Alex Ross's art because it just looks like 50-year-old men and women doing cosplay.
Ooh,
Uh
yeah. You know what? That's funny because I can totally understand it. But at the same time, somebody this past weekend on Twitter posted that they're like, Frank Miller draws his Batman like his cape is
Oh
an insect
god, it
wing, and I
was
can't unsee it.
disgusting.
I
It's
can't
so
unsee it.
disgusting. I saw it. I was like, "What the hell is
I was like,
this?"
wow, he looks like a bug. I never noticed that. I thought it was photoshopped. I was like, there's no way that's real. And I went to Google.
That's not the original. It can't be.
I went to Google and that's the first image that popped up. And I was like,
Oh my.
"No way." I don't have that issue of the book. Like, I have the hardcover, but the hardcover doesn't have that on the front, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I was just like, "Wow."
Oh god.
Yeah, yeah. So I genuinely thought it was just like a meme, right? I thought somebody was lying, just to like talk shit about Frank Miller. But I was like, "Oh my god, I
He
cannot
l
unsee that."
he looks like a beetle.
Yeah, yeah, it looks ridiculous. It's like Mr. Krabs' claw. Like it makes no sense. So, but I mean, again, I've never thought Frank Miller's art was amazing, but that that was just bad. I was like, there's no way. So that was insane in in itself. But anyways, yeah, I haven't read Kingdom Come, so I have no opinions on that, to be honest. But it has to be a version that James Gunn is gonna make, right? Like I don't think it's gonna fully go with what's happening, but I could definitely see Black Adam replacing Shazam. But I mean, I don't know, I don't know what the story is. Is it two separate worlds, or like what happens in the book?
So, from what I can remember, and I was thinking about going back to read this, next year, but from what I can remember, Superman has, like, seemingly retired-ish.
Mhm.
Batman is, like, broken to shit, which is why he has to wear the exoskeleton.
Mhm.
Um, and through some manipulation of some entity, whether it be Lex Luthor or whatever, I can't entirely remember, it ends up being a giant fight between, like, Shazam and Superman.
Mhm.
And I just know, like, because I remember, like, people posting, or, like, I always see people posting that one photo of, like, Superman on the floor, like, reaching out, like, grabbing Shazam's foot, and Shazam just, like, standing triumphantly, you know?
Mhm.
Uh, and I am okay with that story. I'm okay with Superman getting his ass whooped,
Mhm.
but I don't know if the general audience is gonna be okay with that.
Yeah. I'm not okay with Batman having an exoskeleton. So, I don't need a reason why I don't need you to tell me Ben Affleck's old. You know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna have Ben Affleck, like, if James Gunn really thinks that, like, okay, we have an older Ben Affleck and we're gonna use him in the movies, but he's got to go ahead and have like an exoskeleton. That's fucking dumb. So, like, I don't out of all the stories you could pick to tell, and if you're gonna tell a story where, like, the Justice League is kinda old or whatever, why would you do that? Henry Cavill don't look old. Henry Cavill looks fucking great. So, I don't understand why you would do that. Could this be an Elseworld thing? Because 'cause we're gonna have The Flash do some crazy shit, you know?
I will be very, very interested to see if they will do Elseworlds. I pitched it and I even said, it'll be a complete copy paste from Marvel, but Elseworlds would be fun to do in animation first, so
Mhm.
that way you can just say, "Oh, this is something entirely different," and then surprise the audience when, like, you do a crisis event in live action and they
Yeah,
show up in live action, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I just don't think I don't know. Kingdom Come, it's not a story I hear talked about a lot, to be honest.
I
So,
I just think it's a product of its time.
yeah, for sure.
Uh, there
Majority of Alex
was
Ross's stuff is.
that is also very, very true.
Yeah.
Um, but the very, very interesting thing is Alex Ross has a kind of hate relationship with DC,
Yeah.
because DC never puts his name on anything that well, DC and WB, when it comes to movies, when it comes to
Mhm.
posters and things like that, when it comes to television, if they take inspiration from his artwork, they never give him credit.
Yeah.
Never. His name is never in the credits in other movies, or in, because there was a lot of, like, in the show Stargirl,
Mhm.
they had these, like, banners of the characters, and they were all basically ripped from the covers of the JSA
Yeah,
comic
yeah.
that were basically Alex Ross covers, and there was no mention of his name in the credits
Mhm,
whatsoever. So that's why a majority of his most recent work has been nothing but Marvel.
mhm.
It's going to be very interesting to see how they go about this, if they still continue to just say, "Hey, Alex, fuck you. We're still going to use
Yeah.
your work," you know?
I mean, technically, it's their work
It
now.
it is. It
But
is.
I understand the, pay respect thing. I've always been about that. You don't have to give them money because you already paid them at one point, but you could, out of respect, be like, "Oh, yeah, this is their work," or they helped. But you have James Gunn, who made sure to include the Suicide Squad creator in the Suicide Squad. So I think things are gonna be a little different under James Gunn, you know?
Yeah.
He's a big guy about, paying respect and doing that kind of stuff. So I think you'll see those kind of things done well. But at the same time, I also hear Alex Ross is kind of an asshole. Or at least he's not, somebody that doesn't like to be around people. I have been to his booth many times at Comic Con, and apparently he just hides in his little cubby upstairs playing video games or something, and he does not talk to people. So it is what it is. Like you can go down and buy his whole shop if you wanted to, and he would not say anything. I've heard people have met him, and he's just like, okay, like I don't know. So I don't know if he's a good dude or not or whatever, but that's what I've heard. But I know he does not fucking come out of his little cubby hole during Comic Con. So it is
It's
what it is.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, crazy. But I don't, Mark Wade. I haven't read Kingdom Come, and I've read his recent shit, and I'm just like,
I and that's the thing. So I think it was not this year, but last year, Comixology had a very big DC sale. Kingdom Come was on it, so I did purchase it. And
mhm,
recently, I even like just as recently as like 3 days ago, I went ahead and went on the Black Friday deal for DC Universe and got the annual subscription for only $30.
yeah,
So I think I will give this a read,
mhm,
and you know maybe I can come back and be like, hey, so remember that conversation about Kingdom Come? We
yeah.
should either be really excited or really worried. So maybe I'll take a look
Yeah.
at it.
Drew says it's the best thing Wade has done, and it's the only reason why he still respects him or something like that. So we know Drew doesn't have a lot of kind things to say about a lot of people in the industry. So we'll see. If he likes it, it might be really badass. So we'll see. I don't know. I am curious to see where we go with this, but at the moment, I am just kind of
I think,
scared.
see, and the thing is though, in Kingdom Come, Nightwing is not with Batgirl, he's with Starfire.
Yeah, I don't like that pairing. I don't like that pairing. You already fucked over Batgirl once in this universe. Don't fuck her over again. Like, oh my, I don't know what they're gonna. I hope they. Oh, she's gonna be Oracle. Are you fucking serious? Like, I hope they don't do that. They have a lot of retconning to
if
do.
if if she becomes Oracle, I need to see her as Batgirl and see her evolution into Oracle. Because if she just
Yeah.
shows up as Oracle, the payoff of her being like badass as Oracle,
Hmm.
it's not there unless you see the struggle that she went through.
Yeah, I agree. But then you're going to have people bitch and moan that Batgirl doesn't automatically turn into somebody that is in a wheelchair because we had that problem when they did it on Titans,
Yeah.
right? So they're gonna be like, "Oh, she's taking a job," which is unfortunate. I'm like, that's the evolution of the character. It's what happens. But I mean, Titans seem to do something pretty decent with it. So I mean, they could make it work. Although, please don't give us wheelchair fights because that was bad. Anyways, so we'll move on from that because I don't really think we got anything else. Did I miss anything? The animation stuff, Cape Crusader possibly going to Amazon. Those are the main topics for this
Yeah,
week.
there was not really much of anything. Just so everybody knows, like, why aren't you talking about CCXP that is happening this weekend? Like, booths are being set up
Yeah.
right now currently. So technically it starts today. I think a lot of the Marvel stuff is happening today.
Mm,
DC will be either tomorrow or Saturday. But we will talk about anything that comes out of CCXP is, of course, if it's Batman related or if it affects Batman in any capacity. I know a lot of people are freaking out over the poster right now because it has Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, Pattinson Batman, Black Adam, Jason Momoa Aquaman, and Henry Superman. And
Yeah.
everybody's like, "Oh, this confirms Pattinson is the DCU Batman." Blah, blah, blah. I'm just like,
It's like people have
no,
never seen marketing before in their life.
exactly. I just think that you have some of the most recent movies that made WB a lot of money, and then you have some of the older movies that made DC and WB a lot of money, and then you have the fan favorite Superman. Like,
Yeah.
so that's basically how marketing works, people.
I mean, I would say it's probably a good sign that they're showing Cavill because they probably didn't do that previously.
No,
So,
they showed Christopher Reeves previously for a lot of
yeah.
posters.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a good sign, but we'll see. I don't expect anything big to come out of this weekend besides something Blue Beetle esque. That'll be the biggest thing that comes out. Maybe a teaser.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think anything much of it. So, we'll see. But anyways, let's move on to viewer questions because we got a few. I don't know if we had any in the Discord. I don't think we did. We just had Drew asking us to acknowledge him, but that's not going to happen because we can't talk about what he is talking about. So, as much as I would love to talk about that. Well, I guess that's an announcement. Hey, everybody. We said we weren't going to cover Catwoman 50, but something happens. That's all I'm going to say. I wish I could say more, but it's to the point where we kind of have to fucking cover it.
Yeah.
So expect us to cover Catwoman 50, and then we won't give a shit after that. Maybe. I don't know. There's some more crazy shit could happen in 51 that we have to cover, but I doubt it. Anyways, move on to viewer questions. First up, we got Wikiz Reese saying, "Go Cowboys! Yeah, go Cowboys!" Because I mentioned football in the last episode, because I think we recorded on Thanksgiving, so
Yes, we did.
that was cool. We got Eduardo de la Cruz. Which villain in your headcanon is LGBT? It seems like the only representation is coincidentally all three sirens being bi. Personally, I think Riddler being gay would make a lot of sense. It just feels right, and they have done it in some media, but never made it official. Where has he been gay?
So I think, and I could be canceled for this, but
Mhm.
I don't care. I think there was a lot of headcanon in Gotham
Oh, fuck,
between
100%.
Penguin and Riddler.
So Penguin was the one that was gay or
Yeah,
like gave off the gay vibes. Never technically said it. He could have been bisexual,
yeah,
because that's what DC loves to do. But Riddler never reciprocated those feelings in the show.
yeah.
So I think it's a one of those headcanon for sure. One of those things where people had a ship and were mad that a ship didn't happen.
Yes,
So that's exactly what happens.
100%.
Yeah, it is. It happens in every fucking show. There's animes that do it. Everybody wants fucking Naruto to fuck Sasuke, which again, why there's such a bad fucking pairing. Sasuke is a piece of shit, and I don't know why any of you people like him. And freaking Sakura is still the dumbest bitch in that show. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, but as for characters when it comes to LGBT, I mean, it's funny because like Riddler would be a good shout because you never really see Riddler with a female like villain anymore or like anything like that. He used to have two sidekicks that were women. So like that could have been like his like, oh yeah, he's into women kind of thing. Or he could just like hanging out with chicks, which is what a lot of gay dudes like to do. So,
Yeah.
he could be LGBT. So I think that's a good shout. I I've always like, you know what? It's funny that they make all the fucking superheroes like they change their sexualities, but never none of the villains,
Not the villains.
except for the
But
women.
so here's one that I think is very stereotypical,
Mhm.
especially in the storytelling type of way. Make one of the mob bosses gay.
That would be interesting because then you could actually tell a real story of like other mob bosses being like, "What?" Doing
Yeah,
the
exactly, which is why I say it's, like, very stereotypical, and, like, because I feel like I've seen in other media, like, where a mo
hold on. So I don't mean to cut you off, but technically, in the shitty Catwoman story, one of the mob bosses is gay.
Oh, true, true.
So, it's happened.
Yes. Uh, but I've seen it before in other stories in other media. Like
Yeah.
a mob boss's son ends up being gay,
Yeah.
just like how we're seeing in Catwoman.
Yeah.
Dario,
Yeah.
he ends up being gay, and his father's like, I disowned him, blah blah.
Yeah.
But like, make an actual head of one of the organizations gay, and then you're like, what the like?
Yeah.
People are like, what the hell? Um,
Well, Eco is gay. She's one of the heads.
True,
Well,
true.
I
But
don't know if that
again,
clarification matters.
but see, that's the problem that I think DC has
Everybody's
is
bi.
everybody's bi, or if not everybody is bi, then especially the women are bi,
Yeah.
never the men.
Yeah, because
That
there's still this very stereotypical thing, like, men don't care if women like women, like, it's not a threat, as they say.
yeah, yeah,
But when it's like and it's not uncomfortable because it's always more viewed more as sexy than, like, ew, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Whereas a lot of men, if they find another man's gay, they're like, ew, which is a stupid stereotype, which is done well, I shouldn't say stereotype because a lot of men are that way, which grow the fuck up. But like, yeah, I think that's still what a lot of companies do. They're like, look, if we make them buy, we get both. We get both audiences. I'm like, no, like you're sitting on the fucking fence, and everybody fucking hates fence sitters. Like, pick a
yes,
side. Like, you can live in a gray area and be like, that side's got some good stuff. That side's got some good stuff. But if you always sit on the fucking fence and you stand for nothing, what is that quote? If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. Like,
yeah.
only good thing that came out of Sucker Punch was that quote, and I don't even think that's an original quote from Zack Snyder. Um, but like, yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. But it's funny. I was gonna say Flamingo, but I think he is gay in the book.
Well, in Birds of Prey,
Mhm.
I don't think they actually said it, but it was always like hinted at. Black Mask.
Yeah, but I don't think that's ever been in the comics. I think they just did that for the movie.
Yeah,
Um, and like it would be interesting if Black Mask was gay in the comics because he's a sadistic motherfucker.
yeah.
Like what he did to Catwoman's sister is insane. I think a lot of people still don't know that from that story, but I would say Black Mask is probably Catwoman's biggest villain if you had to pick a villain for her. But yeah, I don't know. I don't I it's really hard for me to guess. I mean, because like Penguin likes to fuck animals is what the vibe gives off, constantly. Um, I mean, you can't really pick any of the girls because they all kind of just play around with that sexuality anyways. I
So
don't
I
know.
I'm looking through I'm literally looking through a list of Batman villains because remember our conversation a while back of like the like G and H tier villains that are
Yeah,
like
yeah.
basically nothing. I'm like going through some of these and I don't know why they have Calendar Man so low. I feel like Calendar Man at one point was depicted as gay.
I haven't read that story. If so,
Okay.
I've read a lot of Calendar Man stories, but you could be right. I feel like Clock King would be too like proper to be gay. He doesn't.
What
I
the hell
don't
does
see
that mean?
like he's like uptight. And well, then again, we have a lot of priests that are they fuck kids and shit. So like it's possible that like they do
God
that.
damn.
Dude, it's too early for this, bro. Like my brain is just coming out of here, and I'm only saying factual shit. Um, yeah. Everybody's like, oh fuck, they know about
So
our past.
Clock King, Clue Master, Condiment King, Conundrum, no information yet. What the hell does that even mean? Um, I'm looking through some of these character names. The Crime Doctor,
Ah, dude, these are all like fucking
a
Z-list
brother,
characters.
a brother of Rupert Thorne.
Yeah,
So I guess that's an animated series thing because Rupert Thorne is only in the animated series.
yeah. Well, I mean, but the thing is, we've had the animated series, like series continues book,
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
so he could have been in there. I haven't kept up with that whole thing, but no, but like I was saying, like I don't know, Clock King just always gives off a weird vibe. Like I just don't think he would be, I just don't see him. If he was, he's closeted. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be out. But like he's saying that this series is saying in headcanon, like you look at this character, you read this character as that. I mean, I can't say I've ever read the Riddler that way, and I'm gonna tell you why I can't say that, is because if you ever read Catwoman Win in Rome, written by, or it's by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale,
Yeah.
They write Riddler as, like, a super pervert that constantly tries to spy on Catwoman. So, like, they make him, like, creepy pervert kind of dude. So, I just kinda think it's just kinda ridiculous. Um, like, I don't know, man. That's actually a really good question. They
Yeah.
should we don't have enough gay villains. But here's the problem, right? Here's the problem that I would have with this. I think, which, you know what? I mean, maybe they should just make somebody like Clock King gay, because then it just destroys the stereotype, which I think is really good. And, I could be proven wrong. But, um, I feel like they would do it like Flamenco. You know how, like, Flamenco is very flamboyant and he's like a gay
And
guy?
that's what I don't like,
Exactly.
because there is a lot of different personalities of humans in
Yeah,
general.
for sure.
Not like, because I think the big stereotype is the flamingo
Yes.
persona, is the flamboyant, is the uh very uh what's the right terminology, obsessed about the way he looks and everything else, like that.
Yeah.
That isn't interesting if you're like, oh, he's gay, look. And it's almost like you're making fun of gay people.
Yes.
I don't like that. If you give me somebody who is completely turning the table on what people think of a gay individual, and then like giving me a very interesting story, even maybe a sadistic story, you're like, holy shit, I never knew that that person had that kind of backstory and ended up being like this, you know?
Yeah. Now I wanna go with Clock King. Just because Clock King was just like the stereotypical, like, I do everything by the book. I do things by the time, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I don't know if you ever met those people. They're the most stuck up people. And I feel like they also have somewhat bigoted views sometimes, from the people I've met personally,
Mhm.
that are all about that kind of life. And I just don't ever get that vibe. But yeah, if you want to break a stereotype, make somebody like Clock King do it. I'd be down. It would add a different dimension to his character. But again, we never tell. This is the problem I have with comic books. They never tell the, like, I've been hiding this for a long time story, right? Like, they just come
Yeah.
out. Like, Tim Drake's just like, oh yeah, I'm just experimenting, which is fine because he's a young kid. But like, if you were to take a different character that's been around for a long time and make them gay, like, give me the story of why they weren't out this whole time. Like, nobody ever adds that. Like, it's just like, I'm gay now. And it's always been my problem with some of the writing that's happened in these books is, like, I have gay friends and I've seen that struggle. Like, when I don't know if it was like this when you went to school, but like, nobody was out when I went to school. Like, in high
Yeah,
school,
no.
it was like, if you were to come out, because at the time, like, the F slur was big, like everybody was using it. And
Yep.
like, it was one of those things where if you came out as gay, you were going to be made fun of, right? Like, that was what was happening at our time. Now everybody's out, and like, that's awesome. I love to see that. But I have so many friends that are like, yeah, dude, like my parents would have disowned me. Like, I had to pretend for so long, and it's just like, tell those stories. Why don't we get those stories? It's automatically just like the happy stories of where, like, oh, they're just out and they're just doing this. Like, we don't see the struggle of a gay person in comics.
And I think the problem with that is the problem that I think DC and other writers see in that is nobody wants to hear the sad stuff.
Yeah. Nobody wants to read Tom King's books. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
bro, tell me some fucking real stories. It's the reason why I hated that Gotham Girl story. They just fucking shat on mental health. Like, you could have
Well,
made a
and
really good mental health story.
not only that, but like yes, it was advertised during the Pride Month event and everything, but like the whole Kevin Conroy story.
Mhm.
Like he talked about his struggle, but it was the very last story
Yeah.
of the Pride book.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very dumb. And then they were trying to push the whole Tim Drake stuff, and they didn't even put him on the cover.
Yeah.
It's just like, bro, I don't know. I don't know. We've had this discussion before. We always feel like they don't do these stories well. But you know what, El de la Cruz, that's a fucking great story. That's a great question. I mean, it just gave us a talking point for the last like 10, 15 minutes or so here. Then we got Vasan here saying it's not depressing juice, it's anger. So this was going off of it's something we definitely talked about, how people were saying that like um Batman should never be happy. It was that comment that we're
Yeah.
having. So
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
saying
yeah.
that it's not depression, like it's not stuff like that. It's anger. Which is a fair statement. I think it's a
Yeah.
fair statement. But I still don't think like I don't know. I feel like, angry people that are angry all the time still wouldn't do what Batman does. You know what I mean? A lot of angry people I've met are very self-deprecating or be like, man, fuck this world, fuck these people. You know what I mean? They're not like, I'm gonna go out and beat the shit out of people for a good cause. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
more like self-righteous and like, I'm gonna fucking beat the shit out of somebody because it makes me feel good, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't want that Batman because we've seen that Batman before, and that Batman sucks. And I don't need a Batman that likes to beat up people. So, so yeah, I think you have a valid point there, Basan, but I still don't. I think my statement stands with just a different type of emotion. Let's see. Moncre, do you think this would be a great Batman story? Not a pitch, because of what we said last week. Um, where all the lame villains like Kite Man, Condiment King, Egghead, etc., create a team that ends up becoming a fatal threat to Batman, even resulting in the death of a major character. I think it would be interesting, yet funny. I don't know. If they steal this idea, take it, please. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't there an animated series very similar to this? Or something along these lines.
I fe
Like, it's
It
like
feels very similar
yeah.
to something that we've seen before.
Yeah, because there's that episode of I Killed the Batman or whatever. It's like a dorky guy killed the Batman. And,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. And then Batman ends up showing up at the end, like for whatever reason. And everybody's like, there's no way you killed the Bat. I'm pretty sure there's an episode about that. Um, I don't think this is a good pitch because again, you don't need everybody to be a super threat to Batman. Like you just don't. I think there was a good episode. I think every once in a while somebody can get the upper hand on Batman, we saw Tom King make Kite Man kind of a good guy, right? Kind of. If Kite Man would have betrayed Batman at some point in that story, it would have been like, "Oh, he's so lame that Batman trusted him and then he turned his back on Batman." Like that could be a
Yeah.
story, but you can only tell that story every once in a while. You can't tell it all the time. It's like every time something crazy happens where there's like a body double, it's Clayface. Like you can't do that every time. Like,
I was thinking about this the other day, and as far as like the threat to Batman and something bad happening to Batman, like I think what I would like to see is, and I know like just the convenience of the name, and I don't mean it to be like this, but like have Batman have like an off day, like
mhm,
just something like is whether like I don't want it to be like the what is the phrasing
one
uh
bad day.
well, yeah,
No,
like a one bad day, but I don't want it to be like the MacGuffin of Goku in Dragon Ball Z where he had like the heart
harder.
virus,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like I don't need it to be something like that, but like
Mhm.
just one day Batman is fighting crime and like he throws a batarang and he misses and that causes him to lose the fight.
Yeah.
And you know, I can I can be okay with Batman questioning himself,
Mhm.
but I don't need it to be like Batman being like, "Oh, I don't think I could be Batman anymore.
So
I
you don't
didn't
need
beat
the
the."
detective run right now.
Exactly.
So you want this story in a one shot. Because I think a lot of these stories should work only in one shots, not over a long term.
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
I guess this might be the gripe people had with Tom King, right? They don't want to see Batman suffer for too long, which, we had 10 issues of nightmares. So I think people were just like, oh no. But again, perspective comics, so it was supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying there. Yeah, I mean, what was those were our biggest gripes about Detective and the early start of Chip Zdarsky's run, right? Was this
Yeah.
whole like I'm not as fast or I'm not as whatever. I'm like, dude, we don't care about that Batman. We don't care about old Batman. We've read old Batman, And if we want to read old Batman, we'll go read that. You know what I mean? Like I want to read prime badass Batman.
Yeah.
I forgot. I was thinking about it the other day because like we finally get to talk about 130 next week. I'm so excited. Um, but like I was thinking about, dude, the first issue of Zdarsky, I completely forgot. Like he just gave up his identity in the first issue when he put on the bat cowl and he had the belt. Remember that
Yeah.
era, the gala or whatever? I'm like, it started off bad. Like I think people forget that already.
Yeah.
Because just because we had one cool middle Justice League issue, everybody's like, yeah, this is the best. I'm like, dude, he gave up his identity issue one. Um, anyways, so there's that. But no, Oncray, I don't think that that's a great thing because I think you need stupid villains just to fill out the things. Like I don't want everybody to be great. You know what I mean? It's like
Like,
making every superhero OP.
and again, it's not like, let's say in the DC universe, we don't need fart jokes and everything else. We don't need it
Yeah.
in Juice's eyes marvelized,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some really funny moments in the Batman in the animated series where it's like dry humor, you know?
Yes.
So like in the DC universe, if you see Batman, like the start of a movie is a chase, and like at the end of the chase you find out that it's Condiment King, there can be some dry humor there
Yeah.
and it'd be okay, you know?
Yeah.
And I think those kinds of characters are easy as like I said, an intro to a movie or a comic, or like a throwaway thing in the middle of a comic, or even if like in a Justice League movie they're trying to call Batman and you see him just like knocking out one of these like F tier
Yeah.
villains. I think it's a good character kind of to just throw on screen or throw on a page.
Yeah, because like a lot of people like using the analogy or the imagery that Clay was trying to paint of like Condiment King in a chase in the animated series, because a lot of people don't realize this, it had cheesy puns and stuff that people don't remember, but they were so dry with Kevin Conroy's like just voice that it's just like it worked. Like if
Yeah.
he caught Condiment King at the end, Condiment King would be like, "Oh man," he'd be like, "I always catch up," and then like that would how it would be. It would end, and it would do the logo and stuff like that. It would be very dry, stupid humor, like a pun. Um, and stuff like that. Like Condiment King in that first episode that he shows up in, he talks in puns. Like it's all like
Yeah.
relish this and blah blah blah, and it's like crazy. So like yeah, yeah, I think you can have stuff like that. You could have Condiment King on skates going everywhere, squirting people, and then Batman just shows up in the corner and punches him in the face. Like, and that's it. You can that's fine. Like I don't know what happened in the movie industry, and this is something that I hate that Marvel did. Marvel made everybody the comic relief instead of having a comic relief character, which was a classic trope in movies. You have one character that makes the funnies, and everybody else can be serious.
Yeah.
He's the person that breaks the tension. But Marvel was like, no, everybody's that guy, and it's like then everything's the fucking same, and everything feels the same. We don't need that in DC. If you want to have a character like the Flash who is going to crack the funnies, and you have everybody else be all stoic and fucking legit, that's fine. Wonder Woman can crack a joke every once in a while. Superman can tell a dad joke. But Batman, very fucking dry humor. It's the only thing I'm asking for, Gung. Do not fuck up Batman.
Like there's their moment in, I was watching it the other day. Um it was Superman Batman Public Enemies.
Mhm.
And there's a moment where Metallo shoots Superman and Bruce is doing like some minor surgery on trying to take it out. And he he says something, and Batman says, "Do us both a favor, uh lose the humor."
Yeah.
And Superman says, "Do us both a favor, buy one." Like
Yeah.
even that is like, or buy some or whatever. Like that is funny and that's okay. There's even a moment in that movie where Superman is like, "What happened to all the good villains?" And Batman says, "Clark, what the hell are good villains?"
Yeah.
Like those are dry humor moments, and that's what I want to see on the big screen.
Yeah, the best Batman joke of all time is the animated series when he is flying in a plane, he has to eject and he can't fly, and he's all like, "I could use some assistance." He is like, "On account, I can't fly." Like
Yeah.
it's fucking great. Like it's so good. Anyways, let's move on from that. Vasan had another comment that says, I agree with Juice about Tom King's Batman perspective. So for those of you that don't know,
this is about the narration
yes.
in Batman comics in general and how
Yes.
they are perceived by readers and how they should be perceived by readers.
Yeah. Well, I don't think everybody writes the way King writes, but I was just saying that
Yeah.
King writes from the perspective of the character. So if you think like, oh man, this sucks for Batman, it's because Batman thinks this sucks. Like he's going through it, and that's it. Well, I should say like in the Nightmare issues, the way the Nightmare issues are supposed to read is they're very disorienting and they're very like, what the hell is going on? It's because Batman's going through the shit. And so, like, that's why it's disorienting because Batman doesn't know what's going on and he's trying to figure it out. And that's how you're supposed to read those books. Moving on, we got Jason Todd. Which of these writing choices would make you the most upset as a reader? A, Batman cussing / using slang. B, Batman killing but accidentally. C, Batman revealed to be bi now. D, Batman using non-lethal guns.
Just in the fact that we were just talking
Yeah.
about how
Kinda
everybody's bi
yeah.
now. um I think that because here's the thing. Batman using cussing / using slang in some aspects of continuity, just because that's how people talked. He
Mhm.
kind of did that, but
Yeah.
then there was the really big, like, famous line, "I'm the goddamn Batman."
Yeah.
Um, so I can't say that would be horrible because you could easily chop it up to, oh, this is a Batman that's from the 70s, like,
Yeah, yeah. It's
something like
something
that.
written by Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think it would be Batman using guns.
No. No, I don't agree with it. It says non-lethal guns.
Yeah.
He uses
It's
non-lethal guns all the time.
uh
Dude, it's in Zack Snyder's fucking movie. He uses them in different ways. They don't kill people. He
true.
uses a
Okay.
grappling gun. Like, you know
Yes,
what I mean?
yes. Okay. I don't think the grappling gun is a gun though. It's a
Mhm.
grappling gun. It's used to propel him up a building or
Yeah.
across the city. Like, I don't see it like a gun. I need to have a projectile that is meaning to hurt somebody intentionally. Uh,
Okay, but I mean, staple guns aren't meant to hurt people. They can. A grappling hook broke fucking what's his name's neck. KG
oh,
Beast.
yeah,
So
yeah, that's
like
true.
a grappling
Um,
gun is used very interestingly in Batman 130. So
I don't know because I think I would have to still be the non-lethal guns because you're basically just have the conversation with Red Hood, Batman Red Hood, and Batman
mhm.
says, "Hey, I think I'm going to use these from now on."
Yeah,
That's
that would
bad.
be bad. Well, that's just a very out of character thing for sure, which I think all of these
Exactly.
can be. Um, I don't know. I've seen it. I mean, look at again. I think him using a gun to shoot canisters at Superman was believable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's more believable than him chewing gum and spitting it in his eye.
I think that it's fine for Batman to repurpose a gun,
Yeah.
like like you're saying, but to use non-lethal guns like Red Hood is very out of character and would be considered bad writing in my opinion.
I think I have to disagree. I think I have to disagree on that one. I think the most jarring one is the pie one because the trope that DC continues to do that is just like why? Why? I think that's kind of what Zdarsky was trying to hint at. But again, what is your purpose of making him buy? Like, I can understand if you want if there was concrete, undeniable evidence that like, hey, when we make these characters buy, our sales go up like 10 times the amount. Like then I'm like, okay, you're doing it for business reasons. But to go back, like I I think you just upset everybody because I would if you're listening to this show and you're part of the LGBT community, I want to know your thoughts in the comment section about what you think about characters just coming out as bi or just turning bi when they've been straight their whole lives. I feel like that's a punch in the dick because you're just like, oh, you're just trying to get me in by just changing something from a character that's been around for 80 years instead of trying to bring a new character into the light and caring about them and making them better. And I know that's a cop out because a lot of fucking incels and people on the internet are like, just make new characters. Blah, 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 blah. And it's really hard to build a new character. But what have we always said? If you want to make a new character that people care about, you put them in a fucking good book and you make them big. Again, we're going to bring up the boy forever now because
Yeah.
good fucking character. They put him at the end of a Batman book, not the best Batman book. Granted, it hasn't been the best Batman book for a really long time. But like, they put him at the back of the book, and it was a good fucking story, and we cared about the boy. You
Yeah.
can tell me if you would have told me from day one the boy is gay or whatever, and I would have been like, damn, the boy's fucking badass. Like, what the hell? But they didn't do anything like that. They just told a story about the boy. But then again, I feel like we could also get into the conversation of like, why does the sexuality matter, right? Like people can make that argument in comics. And I think it's just like build new characters, man. I don't know why Midnighter's not better and talked about more. He's awesome.
Do you know why? Because I honestly think the reason why they don't use him as much is because he is gay. He's not bi.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree. Yeah, they had a whole series with him and Apollo.
Yeah.
But I mean the banter between him and Nightwing was fantastic.
Now, I will say this, he was a freaking badass in the
Yeah.
most recent run in Action Comics.
Hmm.
He went on a mission to Warworld with Superman, who basically Superman was powerless. He didn't have any powers. He was losing his powers, and Midnighter basically became Batman,
Hmm.
but was still Midnighter, so he was still ripping off limbs of people and killing them and
Yeah.
being a badass and whatnot. Um, and like even Superman was like, "What the hell? Like you can't do this." He's like, "We're not on Earth, and you
Yeah.
have no powers, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna do whatever the fuck I want." Like, and it was fucking badass.
Yeah.
I need to see more Midnighter for sure.
Yeah. Dude, Midnighter blew my mind because I had never heard of him, and he was the character that was given to me during my DC contest. They were like, "Make a video about this character," and they gave me Midnighter, and I was like, "What the hell?" And, and you wanna know another thing? It's not just because he's gay, I think it's because he's gay Batman. That's the problem, because you literally just use it in your
Well,
analogy.
well, they tried to make bi Batman
Mhm.
with Ghostmaker, and
Yeah.
look how well that's gone.
Yeah, we hate that too. Well, I would say that's gay Deathstroke. Um, you know? He's more
Okay,
ninja-esque,
okay, yeah, yeah,
still doesn't work. Um, but, it's yeah, I don't know, man. I really wanna hear from anybody that is a part of the community. What do you think? Like, we're just 2 fucking straight dudes talking about this, but I feel like that would be a punch in the dick. It's like, the fucking covers for the Latino Heritage Month or, Hispanic Heritage Month, right? Like, "Oh,
yeah.
let's just put food on fucking everything." Granted, really good issue of Blue Beetle that came out that we'll be
Yes,
talking about. So I know we have a hard out, so we gotta hurry up.
yes.
All right, so let's move on. So yeah, I would go with that, but it looks like we disagree there. Alexis Barrera, if Dick Grayson evolves from Robin to Nightwing to eventually Batman, would it be interesting for Jason Todd to evolve from Robin to Red Hood to an anti-hero version of the Joker? He is kinda Joker's protege in a sense. What do you think about it? No.
No.
Yeah. No. If you are going to do something like that, I'd rather him not be involved with the Joker at all. Because that's like saying Batgirl needs to evolve into something that's Joker just because Joker's fucked them both up. I don't think it's something necessarily. This is what I've always said with Red Hood. Either turn him fully bad or just do something different with him. Stop trying to like make him turn into something else.
One of the most interesting stories that we read in the very first year of Batman News Weekly um was the Scott Lobdell story when he was trying to kill Penguin
Hmm.
and Batman met up with him on a random fucking building and beat the shit out of him
Yeah, it was awesome.
because Batman had enough. He was basically saying, "Hey, you're fucking done. You're no longer a hero. You're no longer allowed in my city."
Yeah.
Like that is terrifying. like in the sense of like you don't want to be on that side of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's one thing to be a new villain, surprise Batman, and then be like, boom, I'm Jason Todd. And you're like, oh shit. But like to have him turn evil
Mm-hmm.
and then basically be like I tried this and it's fucking stupid and nothing's fucking working, so I'm gonna do my own thing. Like I think not only Batman, but the entire family would have a really hard time with this, and I think it would be a really, really interesting story.
Yeah, yeah. I've gave my two reasons what I like. I've talked about he should either just be a bad guy because like he was trained by Batman. Like he would be again. I mean, but then again, that's kind of under the red hood. But just make him a bad guy full time.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the when you have an anti-hero try to also do like bad stuff. I don't like reading those stories. Like when he took over the Iceberg Lounge, like I don't care about that. Like that was just kind of boring and lame.
It was very filler.
Yeah, yeah, and, like but him going on the run because he's like, he can't be in Gotham, that was an interesting story. I started buying Red Hood around that time because like,
Yeah.
got the shit beat out of him. I was like, "Oh, this is cool." I don't think the stories were that great after that. I hated the ninja suit, but I like the idea that something happened there. So I've always pitched the Suicide Squad story, which unfortunately Brian Azzarello did not do well with, in my opinion. But I think there's so much there that can be done with Batman sending Red Hood to the Suicide Squad. And because like you could have the tension between Amanda Waller being like, "Why the fuck are you here?" And I was like, "I know you're probably working for Batman." He's like, he'd probably be like, "Fuck Batman," you know.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, "You know what? Well, if you do anything that I think you're trying to do, whatever, I'm gonna blow your head off." Like you could have those tensions there. You'll have Red Hood's tensions with the Suicide Squad, who he's probably put away before. Like there's so much there that they could do, and it could at the same time be a redemption story for Batman being like, if you want to try to come back into this family, you need to do something positive for once. Like that's fucked up. Like, but
Yeah.
it's good. I think that should be a good story. But all right, moving on. But I don't think he should be Jokerized. We got Nathan. If you're gonna make DCU shows now, like Marvel Plus and Disney Plus, what two of these five shows would you approve most? Assume all are equal and good. Birds of Prey continues from the movie, adds Katana. Deathstroke, based off the New 52 Rebirth assassin character intros. The Titan Cyborg starting a team of Teen Titan heroes. Black Adam ties into Shazam. Batfleck one last mission, given the character a proper send off. Well, if they're all going to be good, if I'm picking out of this, I'm going Deathstroke and Batfleck.
I am doing the same.
Yeah,
Because ironically, these two were basically the pitches for the two series and or movies that we were going to be getting from these two characters anyway,
yeah,
and they sound great. So I think Deathstroke, uh villain of the week, very much so, but
yeah,
I think it would definitely work for his type of storytelling, and you can connect it to other things in the future. um and then with Batfleck, I think that a proper send off would be nice. If he could stay, that would be nice as well. But I think uh giving him his own movie and or show as a send off uh would be great. Would be
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I'd go with any of those. I don't really care about. I just don't want things to be going on at the same time in this universe anymore. I don't want there to be a Titans and a movie Titans. I don't want there to be a Batman and another Batman. Like, you know what I mean? Granted,
Yeah.
we're gonna have that no matter what, but we'll see what happens. Last two comments we got Clay. Do you think Batman fighting? Okay, a Batman fighting game, specifically Batman characters like 15 Batman families, 15 villains would sell slash be received well? If so, how would you integrate characters like Two-Face, Riddler, the Penguin to be playable?
So
This,
I'm gonna go ahead and answer for Juice. He doesn't
uh
care because he hates fighting games.
yeah.
Uh,
I don't hate fighting games. I'm just not good at them anymore. So I'm just like, eh.
for me, I don't think this would sell well. If you were basically saying, "Hey, this is Street Fighter, but only in Gotham,"
Yeah,
um, I don't think it'll sell well because I think too many people, when it comes to the DC brand now, when it comes to video games, I think people are going to assume, "Where's the Superman? Where's the Wonder Woman? Where's
yeah,
all these other characters?" Um, But if for some reason they were able to pull it off and bring this into fruition, um, I think somebody like Two-Face, you it would just be a character with guns and like something like a uh Street Fighter tag team where like you bring another character in as like a special or whatnot. Um Riddler would beat the shit out of people with his cane. Um and like I feel like his like one like Mortal Kombat finisher would be like him asking a riddle but like killing them before they can answer. I
Yeah.
think that would be kind of funny.
Penguin would just be really wacky, I think, with umbrella stuff and whatnot.
Umbrella specials.
Two-Face, I don't think would have another person. What I think would happen was he would have the ability to change his stance, and each stance has different fighting techniques.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like
So
that
you'd
one.
have one left side, one right side, and
Yeah,
they fight differently, different moves. I think that's what would happen. All right,
I like
moving on
that.
to the last question that we got, or just comment. Fide, hey, great episode. There's two recent cases of writers going from detective to Batman. Snyder wrote his detective run right before New 52, Black Mirror and Mini called Gates of Gotham, and then Tynan, who went from writing detective before jumping on Batman. From my point of view, it doesn't really matter if you start writing detective. If you are an interesting writer, people will buy your books. And if you add to that, before New 52 detective runs were more quality than the main run, and they affected the whole Batman. So spinning off our conversation of how I constantly say main continuity only feels like what happens in the Batman book nowadays.
Yeah.
And for we asked people to be like, "Yo, if you know the answer to our question, please let us know in the comments." So for dropping the knowledge here, I believe Drew also tried to answer this in the Discord.
Yes.
But yeah, I'd have to go back and read a lot of the old detectives to see that it is better than the Batman series, because Detective has technically been running longer than the Batman series. So we've had Detective 1000 already, and we are still like, if Zdarsky stays on this book for a while, like let's say 4 years, we're still like 7 years away from Batman 1000.
Yeah.
So because Legacy issue 900 doesn't happen until like March or April, something like that. So pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I I kind of disagree if you write well enough, people buy your book though, because I think that we've read a lot of stuff that people don't buy that is pretty amazing. So you're not
It's
getting main title numbers.
it's a very weird perspective
Yeah.
because again, you have the fans that are attached to writers.
Hmm.
You with Tom King. There's a lot of people that will buy Brian Michael Bendis. There's a lot of people that will buy just Tom Taylor. There's a lot of people that will buy only Gail Simone. You know,
Yeah.
there are Dan Jurgens, Peter Tomasi. There's these fans that are Ed Brubaker that are just going to be like, hey, if this person writes a banana on a stick, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
Same thing with artists. And I think DC knows this, and that's why they do the combinations with different writers, with very popular writers, with very popular artists. And sometimes, because it's once in a blue moon, but sometimes there's a really good story with really crappy art. And I'm like, cool, I'll buy it because I really want to read the story. I'm not going to really probably pick it up again because of the art.
Hmm.
You had that experience with issues 8, 9, and 10 on
Yeah. Yeah. That was
on
rough.
Batcat.
Hmm.
Um and I I think I somewhat agree with what he's saying, just because I do think there is those special people that almost can write anything
Yeah.
and get a good sale on a book.
I think if you are a good writer, it is my biggest gripes against like the Zadarskis of the world and the Tynans of the world. Whether you have restrictions or not, you should still be able to write a good story. And I don't see why when people complain like, "Oh, I wanted to do something else," I'm like, "Well, you should have been able to do something good with what you had." Like, if somebody's like, "I want you to write this story about a rock, paper, and scissors," you should be able to tell a compelling story about that. You know what I mean? Somebody made a game out of it, so it's just like there's your story. Like, But yeah, I don't know. Crazy stuff. But that is all the questions we have for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Um, and yeah, we're gonna move on to books this week. We don't got too many books. It was an annuals week, so not too much crazy going on. But we have two books in particular that are pretty solid. I think I don't know if you read three books or you had two books. How many books did you read?
I believe I read 3. I'm looking at them right now.
We
Um,
have Graduation Day. Oh, I mean, I guess if you read Nightwing and if you read Justice Society.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Let's start with Blue Beetle. Because man, I just skimmed this book again last night because I read it a while back. This book, I believe, is written by a Latino, and you can tell because they get the family dynamic and like the mentality of a young Latino person in this book really well, and they tie it together with superhero shit. Now I think is this spinning out of something else?
So this is main continuity because there is
Okay.
a small little tag that does in fact say in this title that he was spinning out of Dark Crisis.
Mhm.
Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever. I believe there is a conversation because Superman does in fact show up here. uh he's talking to him and says Jaime helped beat back a massive army in Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, but wait until you see Lazarus Planet number 1 in January. So this is a part of main continuity.
Yeah. Okay. So we know that he's graduating from high school, which I think
Hmm.
is really cool. We have this whole thing about stuff going on, but he's getting this incoming transmission from what they say they think is going to be like a war kind of thing happening, right?
Yeah,
That's what Batman's warning about. He's getting all these incoming transmissions of different ships that are Blue Beetle esque. What do they call them again?
the Reach.
The Reach. And so obviously Jaime is like, oh shit. He's like, what's going on here? And he's like running back home and all that kind of jazz. I love that he's like running home in the backyard. It's not like he doesn't fly into a cave or anything. He's flying to his parents' house. And he's like, like his whole uniform's coming off and he goes in the door and it's his whole family with a congratulations banner and they got food and stuff. And everybody's like, what's going on? And the Superman's there eating fucking food, which I think is fucking great. And then he's like, "Oh, your mom makes the best blah blah blahs," and then they have a conversation about essentially like, what are you gonna do in life? Like, what do you plan on? What's your future? And Jaime is just like, I wish everybody would stop asking me that. And I don't know if you felt that going out of high school, but I think it is a big Latino thing to like. It's either you go to college, you go to the workforce, like,
Yeah,
and like you don't have time to think. Like, I want
yeah.
to be this, I want to be that. It's like, no,
It,
you gotta
the,
fucking work.
it's very looked down upon if there is like downtime. Like you should always be
Yeah.
moving. You should either be because the perspective of our older generation
Mhm.
of Mexican, Latino, Spanish individuals is like, hey, you need to be better than I am. You need
Yes.
like the way I was raised is not. I didn't work as hard as I did to get you to get in the same perspective as I am. So you
Yeah.
need to either go to college or you need to get a better job than me and live your life better than me. That's the big perspective, and it's pushed hard in our culture.
Yeah.
Um, and I felt it 100% when I read this book.
Yeah. So like I like that relation there. And then I like that, Superman takes off and I'm pretty sure I don't remember specifically where it says this because again I read this book a while back. I don't know if he says that he's not going to college or whatever, but like well we do have this incident of Superman flying away and he calls Batman and he's all like yeah, the kid says he doesn't know anything. And so, like, Batman's like, well, we got to keep him at arm's length. We can't have him in this battle. Like, we're not prepared for this. So we need to keep him away.
But they did say, "Hey," or Superman said, "Hey, just wanted to let you know you're grounded. You're not
Yeah.
doing any superhero stuff anymore." Like because the really big thing with Jaime was when he was getting this transmission from the Scarab, he couldn't understand the Scarab anymore.
Hmm.
And he felt just as scared as he did when it first happened because that's the last time that the Scarab was unable to like communicate with him. And so Batman and Superman see it as like, oh, he's probably now a risk. He is compromised probably.
Yeah.
And so we need to be careful. Um so the next thing we see is like they're telling Jaime like, "Oh, come on, open your presents. You're good. Let's go open your presents."
Yeah.
And he like rips everything. It's so cool because it's the POV of Jaime, and so he's ripping up all of these packages,
Yeah.
and it's toilet paper, towels, and pillows. And you're like, "What the
Yeah.
fuck?"
Yeah. And then his mom and dad are like in this anime pose, like above him, like super stoic. And they're like, that was the deal. Remember, mijo? And he's like, you're not going to school? Fine. But you are not wasting your time here. And I'm like, God damn it. I have felt that before. And then he's like, if you're not gonna work, if you're not gonna do anything, you're gonna go work with your Theo or Thea. And she's like, oh no. Like I spent a summer working with my grandpa in plumbing, and like it made me be like, I don't want to be a plumber, so like I'm gonna do something better or whatever. So he's like, I'm gonna go work at the diner. And like it is, as much as we hate the stereotype, there are a lot of family members that start businesses and it's mostly diners and shit.
Yep.
So it's not a stereotype as much as it is. That's just kind of like factual. You probably know somebody in your family that's tried to start a business before.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't always have to be a restaurant, but it's kind of the same thing. Restaurant's the easiest thing here, and he's going to be a waiter. And then at the end of this book, they're watching something happening in a viral like video or whatever. And I'm assuming it kind of seems like, because he said he's going to like Palmer City or Palmala City or whatever they call it, and I'm assuming he's going to be leaving his city to go work somewhere else. And could this be Mexico? Are they trying to say he's going to go to Mexico? Maybe, I don't know, or if this is going to be another city somewhere else. You know what I mean? But we see that there's a big uh, commotion going on in this viral video. Somebody's doing like a vlog, I guess, and then all these people are screaming and they're freaking out. And we see that it is the new villain for Blue Beetle, which I think they're just calling this Yellow Beetle, which is kind of a crappy name.
It might, well, does it say yellow beetle?
I want to
Uh
say I read this a long time ago that it was going to be called Yellow Beetle.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I know that like there's a black beetle that was introduced not so long ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was going to be like either yellow or gold, you know?
Yeah. Gold Beetle would probably be a better name, I think, than Yellow, but I think they're going with Yellow Beetle. And yeah, and then that's kind of how it is. And Jaime's just looking at the phone like, oh, what the heck? And that's kind of how the book ends, because this Yellow Beetle is holding up a car and it's probably going to throw it on a bunch of people. So I think this was a good book. Now, another thing happened if you are let's say a Spanish speaker or a Spanish reader, they actually dropped the Spanish version of this book at the same time, which I think is really cool. So two different languages that you could buy this book in.
Yeah, and so I just want to throw this out there. The last page says next, welcome to Palmera City.
Mhm.
And so I did a quick Google search. I did Palmera City, nothing came up. And then, but the very next thing when you go to Google is Palmera City Blue Beetle. And so I clicked on it, and the very first photo is a photo leak from the Blue Beetle movie. And it
Mm.
says powering Palmera City Cord Industries, clean energy with promethium ore. And so then there's another article that says Blue Beetle's upcoming series introduces a new city to the DC universe.
Ah.
So they may have made this for the movie, and then when the book was announced, they're like, "Hey, can you add this city into your book
Yeah.
just so that way there's some synergy or connectivity to it?"
Yeah, that's cool. Um, I yeah, I don't know. I mean, in the South, like you could I mean, in Texas, you can go to different cities and be like, "Oh, you have family there," and it's like a smaller city, and it's just like stuff like that. And you're just like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I get this." Smaller towns and whatnot, where smaller restaurants and shit like that. So I can totally get it. But yeah, this was cool. Let's move on to. I'm excited to continue this. We already got the second book. There is no Batman in the next book. We covered this book specifically because one, we thought it was cool, but at the same time, there was a Batman in it, so we figured we'd
Yeah.
cover it. Let us know in the chat if you guys want us to continue covering Blue Beetle, because I don't think there's going to be Batman in it going forward unless the war is going to happen in this miniseries. So,
Either that, or like it said, it did say that it looks like Blue Beetle is going to be a part of Lazarus Planet, which me and Juice are not very excited about because it
Yeah.
looks like there's some crazy things that are going to happen that are very much Mark Waid's like new style of writing nowadays.
Mhm.
But we do know Batman is a part of that series.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Nightwing annual. What did you think of this? A lot of action, a lot of team up in this book.
A lot of action, a lot of team up. I was gonna be really upset and really confused at one point, but then it showed that it was actually a perspective of a different character. In one, because there's 3 stories in this
Yeah.
one annual. Uh, I enjoyed this, but the problem that I have is that it's an annual book, and you're giving the backstory to what should be a major villain in the main title. Like
Yeah.
annual, like you said, the last issue was uh the imp story,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
These 2 stories should have switched.
I agree. I told you, yeah, the
I
Imp story
really
has no
enjoyed
sense.
I really enjoyed the imp story. I loved it. But there's 3 stories in here. There is the background to what is
Heartless.
I Heartless. I think that should have been the main story of 98. And I think the imp story, along with the 2 other stories in this annual, should have been in this annual.
I agree. Yeah. I hate when main story is not in the main book because not everybody picks up the annuals because everybody
Mhm.
knows annuals are just fillers most of the time. You can learn stuff. I mean, specifically like Tom King, he also revealed a lot of stuff in his annuals, so we got to play fair game here.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was anything as crazy as like a villain origin story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't we didn't learn about Bane's master plan in an annual, you know? That all
Yeah.
happened in the main book. His annuals were like the love story between Batman and Catwoman. We know Tom Taylor did the 3rd annual, which was the father son aspect of Bruce and Alfred. The 2nd annual, I think, I don't remember what happened in the 2nd annual, but I don't think it was never anything like that affected the story. You didn't need to read them, but it was
Yeah.
cool if you did because you understood certain things. Um, so yeah, this one we have like Dick and Barbara getting captured and they get saved by their dog was another one of the stories.
Yeah, that one was really funny because you think that it's actually all happening, but in perspective,
Yeah.
it was actually just a dream and or like a part of uh Haley's imagination, the dog.
Yeah, because Haley has all these toys and stuff. Just like any dog would, they destroy a bunch of things while the owner's gone. And it's like a video they okay, so first of all, Nightwing Games, which is cool, awesome. He has a fucking Nintendo Switch, he's got a PS5, it looks like he's yeah, he doesn't have an Xbox because fuck Xbox. But like he's got everything else. And like Haley is destroying all these toys, knocked over a plant. And if you go back and read the story, you can connect all of these little devices kind of to like the heroes or villains that might be in the story, right? So like the PS5 controller can be the robot that's in it. The little like wire toy or whatever could be Ivy's tentacle things or whatever.
Yeah.
So like really cool imagination stuff, which I think is really awesome. And I like how freaking Bitewing is like gets a statue, thinks they deserve a statue in the park. Like
She gets a statue, but not only that, I love that somehow she was able to put on this outfit on her own
yeah,
and like save uh Dick and Babs. And I love how like they're captured and they look up at the rafters and
hmm
they see the glass and they see the silhouette and they're like, oh, thank God it's Batman. And
yeah,
then you see it's actually Haley with her ears all the way sticking up.
yeah,
It's absolutely hilarious. And I actually really, really enjoyed the story. But I
yeah.
was
That was a
really
cool story.
confused at one point because I didn't know it was in the perspective of her.
Yeah,
And I saw Catwoman in her suit and I was like, this is weird. Like,
yeah.
and it's clearly like Batman the animated series characters. Like,
hmm
and I'm like, this is not right. Like, there's something off about this. And then when you actually read the story, you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's making a little bit more sense.
Yeah, when I was looking through it too, I was like, what's happening here? So it was a good little fun story. And then the last story is it's called like Lessons, which is essentially Nightwing having conversations are kind of essentially Nightwing being the Batman to John Kent's Nightwing, essentially, or
Yeah.
Robin is how it would be. But it's kind of like them starting their own world's finest, or I should say, not their world's finest, the dynamic duo,
Yeah.
because again, this is a Batman Robin, like paying homage to, and this they do here what I've always wanted Superman and Batman to do is where Batman is training Superman for whenever he loses his powers or if he doesn't have his powers, he can still defend himself and be fine.
Yes. And this I thought was really, really interesting because the whole point is that uh in the Superman, or it's the Superman Son of Kal-El book.
Yeah.
John hurts somebody and he's like, I can never do that again. How do I not hurt anybody anymore? And so Nightwing, in his internal dialogue while training him, is saying like he doesn't know how to necessarily control 100% of his power.
Mhm.
He like, if he just stands there and lets somebody punch him, that person's gonna shatter their bones. Like, he has to always constantly be thinking about these things. And so that's gonna really distract him when it comes time to step up. And so they do a lot of these different training things. But what I love more than anything in this book is the not mirroring of Nightwing and Batman,
Yeah.
because it's mirroring, but it's not mirroring. Because
He's
at
doing it in
some
his own
point,
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. John is asking Nightwing, like, well, how do I do this or how do I do that? And you see a panel of Batman saying something very Batman-esque and very strict and menacing type. And then you see Nightwing saying it in a completely opposite way and being very intentional with his words. And you're like, oh, okay. And this was always how everybody knew Nightwing was going to be,
Yeah.
because that's how he stated it when in that conversation that we had in the Robin special on his anniversary. The Dan Jurgens story was, you know, Dick Grayson wanted to leave as Robin to become something that was never going to be Batman.
Yeah.
And then you see Batman, when he finally leaves the cave, be like, I really do hope you become something better. Like,
Mhm.
and this is showing that. And people say like better, or people will probably get mad at the phrasing better,
Yeah.
but Batman knew what he was saying. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to be me to become your own individual self. And so I really did enjoy that perspective also.
Yeah, that was really cool. There is, I don't know if you've read ahead or not, but we will have another book that has a similar thing happening in it in the future. It's one of the big
I
team up books.
I
So
have not read it yet.
yeah, so that's something to look forward to, which I think is really cool as well. Good Nightwing moments lately this year. Been some good
Yeah.
Nightwing moments. But let's move on to the final book of the freaking podcast, and that is Justice Society of America. Now, this is really interesting. Now, I think we need to clear something up because we were talking about this in
The
Discord.
spoiler chat before I could finish reading, and I was just like, ah,
Why do you have notifications on?
I don't turn notifications off for anything.
You,
Like,
you
I
You know you
never.
can go to each channel and turn off each channel individually, right?
Yeah, do you know how long it's gonna take for as many channels that you have in your Discord?
Dude, just do it on the spoiler ones. It's literally 2 channels. It's not that hard. I
But
have
what if I
music
want to
turned off.
join in the conversation? I have no idea what y'all are talking about if I don't get notifications.
Doesn't it I thought it shows the little like number next to it.
It does, but like it's a lot easier if I just get a ding from my phone.
Well,
And
you
they're
know
like,
what?
"Oh,
Then
people are
suffer.
talking."
All right, you can't fucking complain. Fucking suffer then, okay? There's options for you to change it, and you don't want to fucking do it, so it's on you now. It's on you.
Oh, shit.
Um. So, anyways, yes, we were talking about this in the spoiler chat in Discord. Um, seems to be some confusion on where this is taking place and on what Earth because it's coming out of Flashpoint Beyond, which we know was main continuity, but this doesn't seem to be that same world. I mean, that's the vibe I get, but it's spinning out of that. So what's
I think
happening?
I think this is main continuity. This is, and just because it's main continuity doesn't mean that it can't be on another Earth. But I think what Jeff Johns was
You think
doing.
this Batman that has died is the same Batman we saw in Flashpoint Beyond?
Oh shit, I guess not.
You
What?
know?
No, I think that they said.
I'm just like, I'm confused on where this is happening. Because the JSA and everybody's all on this earth, and that's been kind of like we don't know what's happening on main continuity with that. Everything's technically continuity now. Like,
When was Flashpoint Beyond's final issue? It was
maybe like
last.
3 weeks ago or so, three,
Okay, it
four
was
weeks ago.
beginning of November then.
Yeah.
So you go ahead and talk. Let me see if there's any
Yeah.
clarification at the end of that story.
So just Justice Society of America starts off with this amazing first splash. It's not a splash page, but it says 31 years ago, which I kind of hate this because they are aging their characters, and I don't like when comics do this. But it says 31 years ago. It shows Bruce Wayne's parents dying. And it's that classic imagery. Then it says 13 years ago. It's Catwoman jumping out of the window for the first time, which is like very iconic. And then it says 1 year from now, and it is a baby Selena or a baby Helena in a crib with the cat there, and they're kind of just talking about it's like, oh, she's a baby or whatever. And then the next page is Helena in her huntress costume beating up some dude saying, "Where's Dr. Fate?" And we get all this dialogue. We have her beating the shit out of everybody. And then we see that Solomon Grundy is part of the JSA. And we find out that the JSA is now made up of a bunch of random villains and Huntress and Power Girl, and that's it. And Huntress doesn't like it, but I mean, not Huntress. Power Girl doesn't like it, but Huntress is like, "This is what we got." And it's a reason why villains are in the JSA is because Huntress. The whole theme of this book is my father taught me that people deserve a second chance, and like that's the whole theme of this book. And so that's kind of what's going on here. And she's getting a lot of pushback from her mother, who is Catwoman, saying you are too trusting. Your dad taught you to be too trusting, and that's why he's dead. Like it's fucked up. But Helena has this nice burner in this book where he's like, if dad didn't give you another chance, I wouldn't be here. And I'm just like, go damn. So like I think it's pretty interesting, but I don't know if you found anything yet. Or you still looking for it? Um,
I am still looking because what I am seeing here,
mhm,
we are seeing main continuity Batman
mhm.
with the snow globe.
Yes.
The snow globe makes an appearance in this book. It's a
Yes.
big story plot of how Helena gets to where she is at the end of the book.
Mhm.
I think this has now become another timeline like Flashpoint. It is not
Yeah.
a separate Earth. It is a different timeline.
I could see that. Because yes, I will say the big talking point was the snow globe. Like I was like, okay, this could be a second Earth. But then when I saw the snow globe, I was like, ah, bitch. Because then at the very end, there is this big splash page, these two splash pages that has a bunch of, I want to say, like not iconic scenes, but they look iconic, right? And I'm assuming this is the funeral of Batman, that everybody's at. And then there's Jay Garrick with I guess the new child that he has. Then there's Power Girl, around a bunch of like what we assume are dead heroes. And then there's the Red Lantern. And what ends up happening is when because I guess to go back, the what do they call him? The Stranger, I think is the villain's name.
Yeah.
The Stranger kills everybody in the JSA. Like he's been killing them throughout time, apparently. And so he's here. He's like, y'all are weak compared to the other ones. And he has this crazy power that can like age people because I guess he controls time, so he can speed up time on individuals, which seems really OP. And he's speeding up time on people. He's disintegrating people. Like it's crazy. Helena gets a shot on him, And it does nothing to him. He's like, "Really? You really think you're gonna be able to do something to me?" And he starts aging her. But as we saw throughout this whole book, Catwoman has been like stalking Helena to make sure she's safe, I guess. And she knows because we saw in the, I guess, issue 0 that Catwoman did something. She stole something she was not supposed to. And Dr. Fate was like, don't do it. This is going to cause problems for your daughter. And Catwoman was like, I'm not fucking having kids, bro. Like, get out of here. And so now we're seeing that. So I think Selena has constantly been scared about what's going to happen to Helena. We saw that Bruce is dead already. So she probably knows that, like, my curse has been brought upon my family, right? So when Helena is about to die, we see Selena show up to save the day and she throws the globe, which we all assume if it is from Flashpoint Beyond, I was all like, "Oh my god, is the new Batman gonna be Thomas Wayne? Like, is he gonna show up in this timeline and be like, oh, what's up, bitches?' And so, like, there's gonna be the Joker and the Robin too. Like, are they just gonna come out and, like, it's like a Pokeball? Like, are they gonna be a fucking Pokeball and like show up? Um, but now I'm really curious on where they're going with the story because Helena gets teleported to the past. So it's like 1941 or some shit where we know the JSA shows up. We know that's the JSA time. It's wartime. So now Helena, who is from modern time, is now back in the past. Which, if I'm not mistaken, this story has been told before. I think Jeff Johns is just doing it better, right? That's what he often does.
I just want to hear. I just want everybody to acknowledge a little bit of the hypocrisy coming
Mhm.
from Juice right now,
Yeah, well, yeah.
considering every single time we see Chip or somebody that he dislikes do a story that has already been done,
Yeah.
there's always a complaint. Oh, the
Yes.
story's already been done. Oh, the story's
Yes.
already been done.
Yes.
Now Jeff Johns does it. Oh, but it's great.
Yeah. I just want to say, to be fair, correct me if I'm wrong, has Chip Zdarsky shit when he done it not been fucking garbage?
It has been garbage.
Exactly. 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 Look, we know when it comes to life, if you do something good for a really long time, people give you leeway. It's what happens. It's just the
Yes.
fucking fact of life. If you don't think that happens, you're delusional. But no, in reality, I just want to point out that I believe this story has happened before.
I think in some aspect it has.
Because didn't Helena hasn't she been teleported in the past before?
I don't remember Helena specifically being thrown into the
I
past
I want to
before.
say it happened during that event nobody cared about, Convergence. Because isn't that where she's met Thomas Wayne before?
I
She was
never
all
read Convergence.
see, yeah, see, nobody read Convergence. But Convergence, if I'm not mistaken, Helena Wayne gets teleported with power. Yeah, okay, so remember in New 52 when there's that one moment, I don't know if it's in Justice League or what it is, but there's a big tower like Doomsday is not Doomsday, fucking Darkseid is taking over the world and there's the towers that that he builds and they have to blow up one. And what ends up happening is Batman sacrifices himself, and Superman and Wonder Woman also die. But when they blow up this tower, a freaking portal is made, and people get sucked into it. And it's I think the Justice League gets sucked into it, and Helena and Power Girl, or it might be Supergirl, they're like they don't want them to die, and they're like no, and they go into the portal and they get teleported to the past, or they get teleported to another world or some shit like that. So they're trying to get back home.
Oh,
So technically, that is a different Earth story. But somebody that's read Drew, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I don't know. Drew, if he doesn't like something, he just stops reading it too. So he might have not read that either. But anybody that actually read Convergence or actually read or knows the story I'm talking about, let me know. I'm pretty sure something similar has happened. And I don't know, like, the one thing we do know about Jeff Johns, right? He might not be telling the same story, but I feel like he tries to correct some stories that have been messed up before, right?
yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Um, so maybe he's trying to make sense of that since like DC was like everything matters and Jeff Johnson's like, "No, bro, you got to like connect shit. You can't just say it all makes sense, Snyder. Like come on, man. I know you don't write relationships, but damn." So like I'm just curious on if that's what he's trying to do because I think this has been done before.
Yeah.
But it was never shown. Okay, so maybe I want to clarify because maybe we're about to see what happened between those eras. You know what I mean? Which that
Yeah.
story hasn't been told, but he's doing this part. Like Zdarsky, he didn't add to the story, right? I mean, I guess he added to Babel a little bit, but again, that gets into the realms of like something bad Jeff Johns did, where he tried to change a classic story. That's a big no-no in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Zdarsky tried to do the same thing, which I don't like. He also did it to further his own story, not necessarily to add to that story, which again I think is a bad no-no. But yeah, so I am curious about where this is going to happen. So Jeff Johns could be telling what happened between that era, or he could be telling the story of how Helena Wayne gets home. But I'm just very curious on where they're going to go with this. Like, is he trying to make Helena Wayne in continuity? Or
I think there's a possibility of Helena being in main continuity.
then what happens to Bertinelli?
I don't know. That's
You
gonna be
know?
the weird thing.
It's like you gotta explain it. Why does she become Huntress? Like you can't just erase Bertinelli. Like she's been there forever. She's been a part of a bunch of things. She's
Yeah.
literally in Detective Comics
Well,
recently.
in King's Run, Helena becomes Batwoman.
Yeah.
So what
So,
happens to
but
Kate
you,
Kane
but
is the real question.
true. But at the same time, well, technically, there was never a Batman in that run, so she could be Batman technically. But I
True.
mean, progression. We don't know what it matters
Yeah.
because there is precedent that the symbol of Batman is just the symbol. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, whatever.
Yeah.
So she could be Batman in the future. Period. And we know Nightwing's just a detective now, so he's not wearing the cape anymore. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm interested to see where this is going to go. It is interesting. I don't like that it came out on an annuals week because I feel like a lot of people will probably miss this.
I think that with the inclusion of the JSA is dead, people will be like, "What?" and then go buy the book.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see. I will say Jeff Johns has got me intrigued. But I'm curious on where this story is going and what his end game is. Because in all of his last books, he leaves them open to tell another story, right?
Yeah.
So we know at the end of Flashpoint Beyond, he had a bunch of characters, and I guess we're gonna learn about all those characters right now. But yeah, I don't know. I will say the art was gorgeous. I mean, it's Mikkel Janin, fucking fantastic stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, that is it for this episode. Clay, do you got anything going on this week, man?
This week I do not. I was working late last night, so I was not a part of Star Wars Alliance. But if you would still like to go listen to them talk about some of the latest news, go ahead and listen, excuse me, to that. But that's basically all I got for this week.
Nice. I am in the process of finishing my editing job. I'm trying to get a month ahead on that work so I can finally work on my new YouTube channel and try to get it out. Not at the start of the year, but like hopefully, in the first month or two. So I'm really trying to focus on that. So I'm trying to get ahead on my job that actually pays me to work on my job that doesn't pay me. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, hope you liked Unhinged Juice. It is too fucking early for me. I would be waking up around this time, you know? So like it's too early. So hope you enjoyed this podcast. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome. News Weekly.